So, talking about Lilith, we talk about this race of angel-human hybrid race of monsters. That's another major Jewish legend. The Nephilim, beings who are half divine, half angelic, and half human. Angels breed with human women and result in this race of Nephilim. This race that is both monstrous and wonderful. I mean, angels and humans interbreeding is wrong, and the results it produces are wrong. And yet, at the same time, you have a creature that's half angel. It's wonderful yet monstrous. Nephilim are usually evil. They're always creepy, scary, and powerful. Nephilim are kind of tangentially mentioned when in English translation of the Bible. They're usually referred to as giants, though they weren't necessarily gigantic. They could be normal human size. They could be huge. I don't know of any that were really tiny, but I don't see why there couldn't be one that was really tiny, except it wouldn't be as scary. But they were basically the monsters of ancient Jewish culture.
It basically translates into fallen ones.
It kind of does translate into fallen ones. It does translate to fallen ones because it's referring to the crime that their angelic parents have committed. They're not quite the same thing as fallen angels, though. Like in Christianity, they're not devils. They're monsters. They live here in the world around us, or at least they did until the flood that destroyed most or all of them. In fact, sometimes some versions of legend, if you go outside the Bible, if you look at other sources, some versions of legend say that that's actually what the flood was for, was to wipe out the Nephilim. Other versions say no, that was just a bonus. But that either all of them or most of them died out. The Nephilim are a very common trope in anime. For example, Nia. Nia has a human father, but she is touched by the anti-spirals, who are essentially the rulers of the universe. They are essentially divine. She's touched by them, and so in the latter half of the series, she becomes this creepy, scary, powerful, evil figure when her half-divine nature awakes. As long as she's still in her fully human nature, she's just a person. But when this half-divine nature kicks in, well, that's wrong. It creates a warped, monstrous figure who, comes pretty darn close to destroying the world. I should have mentioned at the beginning, spoiler warnings for a lot of stuff. Most of it's older stuff that's actually pretty much all of it's stuff that's a couple years old, so should be okay. So there's a lot of Nephilim in anime and video games. Here's a couple more. Rey is, of course, partially a clone of a human, partially taken from Lilith, directly from Lilith. And we get someone who is really creepy. The original, like I said at the beginning, I don't really care much about what the creator intended, but the original intention with Rey was that she was going to squish people out. She was going to be creepy, and people were going to, you were supposed to hate her. And instead, the fandom loved her, and that kind of creeped Otto out. But she is this immensely powerful figure. She is the only human who can manifest an external AT field. She is, able to come back from the dead repeatedly. She's, really freaking weird. She's this creepy, powerful figure, as is traditional for Nephilim. Well, yes, technically that entire anime is really, really weird. She's not she's probably not evil. I don't think she's evil. But she's definitely weird. And then, of course, we have Sephiroth, who is, Genova isn't exactly a divine being, but she is, she comes from the heavens, she's immensely powerful, and you cross her with a human and you get this, creepy, scary, powerful, evil person who has half an angel, the one angel wing is kind of screaming, yes, this is half angel.
Sephiroth is Rey?
Yes, Sephiroth is Rey.
I find it funny that he gets beaten by the one-winged devil, who's technically our hero. Each goes demons.
Well, in Kingdom Hearts, Cloud is a one-winged devil. He's really not in FF7.
I thought that actually was part of folklore with FF7 too, but
I don't, It's possible. I have avoided playing FF7 for quite a long time now because, but
Because of Wolfgang.
now Sephiroth, of course, the name comes from the Sephiroth. He has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the Sephiroth, but they named him after the Sephiroth for some bizarre reason. I guess you could kind of stretch it and say he's trying to ascend to godhood, but no, he's got nothing to do with the Sephiroth. So what are the Sephiroth? The Sephiroth come from Kabbalah, the Jewish system of mysticism. And what it is, so God is this infinite being, God is infinite, omnipresent being of pure light. And the problem with being an infinite, omnipresent being of pure light is that if you already are everywhere and are everything, how do you create something other than you? The solution is to intentionally retract yourself. God withdraws his light from the universe to create a region of darkness, and then he trickles a bit of the light back in to create the entire universe as this blend of light and darkness. So it's something that is other than God, but incorporates God. So that is what the Sephiroth are. It's these 10 emanations of God that descend into this world. It's the path from this world to God. It's the process by which God created the world and by which, in reflection of that, all acts of creation take place. It's a map of the human soul, and each of the Sephiroth represents one of the names of God. It represents a body part. It represents an element of the soul. It represents a stage of creation. It represents a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm not going to get into. No?
When he leaves, every time you fight him in the game, when he leaves a piece of Genova behind.
Yeah. So I guess that is kind of a connection there. I still think it's kind of a weak connection between him and the Sephiroth.
They also draw, Final Fantasy draws mainly on Norse mythology.
Yeah, it's a weird game because it draws heavily on Norse mythology, but the main villain is a Jewish monster.
Exactly.
But, Pokemon does the same thing all over the place. Except Pokemon does it well. So the funny thing is, because, mysticism tends to be very, do your own take on it, tends to have lots of different versions of any given mystical system, as a result of which there are actually a total of 11 Sephiroth. Keter and Da'at kind of get used interchangeably. Generally, if a system has Keter, it doesn't have Da'at. If it has Da'at, it doesn't have Keter. I'm not going to go into what all the Sephiroth are, because that would take the entire panel. I'm just going to touch on the way the system is used in a couple of anime.